I would like to talk about what I learned in Fnis 210. One of the first things I learned about was the long generational trauma that continues from the residential schools. This was important to me because it relates to my father, who's Ojibwe, and who I suspect was moved in the 60s in the scoop because his family dispersed with his sister going to Washington and him being sent to BC. It helped me better understand maybe some of his behaviors, which led to my mom separating. Another thing that I learned about was about Michael Foucault and the dynamics of power and watching, and how the educational system, as it's coming from a colonial institution, sort of shapes people into what the government is hoping for. And this leads to a cultural genocide as Indigenous cultures and languages were erased and being presented as the lesser. This related to Memi, who said that colonial powers enforce these stereotypes or these ideologies that Indigenous people are lesser. And slowly they take away the culture, the language, and they sort of try to break all kinship and ties to land by sending people away from the lands that they're traditionally been living on, or breaking up the actual communities. A personal example of that is on the Sunshine Coast, where all the Indigenous people were moved to Seashelt. And when I asked my teachers about it, I was told, we just don't talk about this. And I always wondered how this happened. And the sense of home being broken just reminded me of how, even though they're put on the reservation, the road bisects their home. And I always wondered why they would put such a large highway throughout a home community. Another thing that I learned about was through rehearsals for living. For me, art is sometimes hard to understand. And so I didn't really understand that by creating of the art, it is a moment of resistance and revolt. And through examples of looking at different Indigenous artists, like for example, the one that created the dress, which was made of the body bag tags that were sent to an Indigenous organization when they asked the government for help for medical resources, and instead they sent the body bags. So art can be extremely powerful. Another piece of art that moved me was Rebecca Belmore and her performance on the downtown east side about all the missing, lost, and murdered Indigenous women, girls, two-spirited, and how she used light to drive away the darkness. And wearing a red dress, she sort of like tore apart the petals, showing how these women's bodies and people's bodies have been torn apart by colonialism. For me, most of all, what I learned about was about the ISP, the Indigenous Strategic Plan, and how UBC is trying to integrate the principles from the UNDRIP. I would say they're doing well in some ways, but as I work in housing in other ways, there's a lot of resistance that I see from very basic things like including the recognition that we're on unceded Musqueam land. Some people will not even include it on their email signature, even though it's UBC policy. As an Indigenous person who grew up in my mom's family, who is the settler, I'm trying to find more about my Indigenous history and a sense of belonging. And this class helped me connect with people. And I was able to learn about resources I wasn't necessarily aware of before, whether it is the Truth and Reconciliation website that's been oriented towards younger people with the videos that we saw in class, or if it's the movies and seeing Afrofuturism and Indigenous futurism, where a society of Indigenous people are equal and have their own technology and come. The one that's set in Nepal was quite beautiful. I just wanted to thank you for your patience through this. I've been recovering from the impacts of the surgery and my flares. I apologize again for the lateness of this video. I had flares and then I had complications from the root canal, but I'm hoping with the root canal done, there was infection and whatnot, my health will not be impacted by that one less thing. I wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to read these materials and for the opportunity to learn and grow and bond with my classmates, and being able to take the questions that you did raise in class. I took them to my work and I asked my colleagues and we went through them, and it meant a lot to me that I was able to share what I was learning. Thank you again. And my name is Amber Parika. I am an Ojibwe woman from the Sunshine Coast area, and I am proud to have been able to participate in FNS 210. Thank you. Bye.